Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Madara back again, once again, in what feels like forever. I just checked the YouTube channel. It's been 3 months since I've done a video. That's on me. It's my fault. I just had a lot of life stuff happening between helping people move and the new job and all of this other stuff. Is just getting into the swing of things. But I wanted to pretty much give an overview of One Piece chapters 1079 and 1086 before the new chapter drops this week. Oda is going to be back from his 5 weeks off from getting LASIK eye surgery for his astigmatism. So obviously, this is going to be the first chapter in a while. So I just wanted to kind of give an overview of every chapter since I did my last review, which was 1077 through 1078. So um, these chapters are entitled. I'll get each chapter title as I'm going through because I don't want this thing to be an hour. But it'll probably end up being like 20, 25 minutes. I'm hoping. Anyway, it says The Emperor's Crew, The Red Haired Pirates, 1079. This chapter was good because it showed us how York set up the Seraphim to do what they've been doing, how they were now targeting not just CP0, but also the Straw Hats and the other satellite bodies. This gave the reveal that that we were waiting for these past 20 so chapters since we've been in Egghead of who was the traitor. Or I think 18 chapters. I think the not 18 chapters. Like I think it was like 8 or 9 chapters of who was the traitor who sent the Seraphim after the other satellites in CP0. This also got it to where we could see Blackbeard's ship pulling up on Egghead Island. But this was obviously the chapter where the Kid pirates and Captain Kidd himself got destroyed by Shanks and Dory and Brogy. Uh, Obviously, Shanks can see future sight. If you hadn't seen One Piece film read or hadn't read the manga by this point, they shouldn't even be spoilers. But if they are, spoiler alert. Shanks can do future sight because he looked into the future to see what Kidd was going to do. He was going to use uh, his laser beam to shoot up the weaklings in Shanks's armada, because that's the thing about Shanks's armada is that they're known for being weak, but since they fly his flag, nobody would dare mess with them because you know how Shanks is. Shanks has a similar trait as what we heard about Roger is that you can mess with him or whatever, but if you go after his friends, I think the manga said Roger becomes a demon, or that was in like a SBS or like a color walk. Roger becomes a demon when you go after his crewmates or his friends. So pretty much we saw Shanks do one of the best hockey feats I've seen, because obviously I believe Conquerors of Fusion increases all your stats, strength, defense, and speed. We see this with Luffy. Whenever Luffy used Soru or Shave before, he wouldn't break the ground around him or anything like that. But when he first goes into Conquerors of Fusion and he jumps off that rock, he completely destroys the rock as he's jumping towards Kaido. And then we see what Shanks does. Shanks is at the coast. He just got on the Red Force, which is his ship, and he jumps from his ship to Kid's ship and hits him with a divine departure. So, and I know Oda has already stated this before in different SBSs and in different color walks, but Shanks is now a swordsman or a confirmed swordsman. As many of us believed, he used divine departure, again, something Roger made, and he destroyed Kid. So I know this obviously goes into the who's stronger, Shanks or Mihawk, and Oda has said it time and time again in the color walks and in the SBS and in the Vivi cards that the one who stands above all swordsmen in the manga is Jakul Mihawk. So I know people think Shanks is stronger than him or whatever, but until Oda shows me otherwise, I got Mihawk over Shanks. So until Oda shows otherwise, I'm gonna go with that and the shonen trope. Mihawk has never done a named attack yet. We've never seen him actually fight a high tier or strong individual because even as he was clashing with Vista, he was looking at Luffy the whole time, not really paying attention to Vista. Yes, I know he asked to postpone the fight, but we have to remember Whitebeard commanded Vista to protect Luffy, and Mihawk, or Vista knew Mihawk was after Luffy, and he said, yes, let's go ahead and postpone. So to me, clearly Vista didn't want the smoke because even though his captain told him to protect Luffy, he shirked off those orders. But anyway, getting back to it, yes, Shanks destroys Kid and Killer because Killer tried to block it, and both of them ended up destroyed. Kid's crew was like, "Hey, he's bleeding out. He's gonna die." And then, as they're giving up their dreams, aka the Poneglyph rubbings, Dory and Brogy launch a Ikoku sovereignty from the shores, or no, Hakoku sovereignty from the shores of Elbath and destroy the Punk Victoria. Thus, as the narrator said, at Elbath in the New World, the 3 billion bounty pirate Eustace Captain Kidd and his Kid pirates destroyed. So they're no longer in the running for the One Piece, I believe. Some folks think they're going to come back. I personally do not. I think it's it for them. But we'll see what Oda does. Moving on to chapter 1080, The Hero of Legend. This is the chapter where we go back to Beehive Island or Fuloled or Hachinosu, whatever you want to call it. Go back to Blackbeard's crew. We get to see Kobe in this chapter. Different people that are in Sword or are affiliated with Sword. We also get to see Shiryu, which yes, the Viz translation now calls him Shiryu and no longer Shiryu of the Rain. So now he is Shiryu of the Rain. We get to see Avalo Pizarro with his Island fruit. We got to see Vasco Shot. Sunlong Wolf is there. Yeah, but obviously the biggest impact of this chapter was Aokiji telling Blackbeard about Sword and what it is, and how when you become a part of Sword, you basically put in your resignation, and if you're captured, the Marines can disavow you. You pretty much put everything else on the back burner for your own missions. I know a lot of people, Randy Troy, he believes Aokiji is in Sword, and he believes Garp is over Sword. We're still waiting to get confirmation from Oda about that stuff. But yeah, this was a big one because we got to see Prince Groose in his clay fruit. The granddaughter of Suru, Jaku, has this whip ability where she can make buildings move by like her whip fruit or the discipline fruit, because now she's a disciplined woman. We also got to see Hibari use Vegapunk's gunpowder, which actually turns the bullets into flowers. And so it's a dope chapter. Obviously, by the end of it, we get to see the galaxy impact, and everybody in the community was going wild over this chapter because the galaxy impact looked completely devastating, and people were saying it's the strongest move in One Piece because all of the Conqueror's hockey and all the buildings. But then you go to the next chapter, and he didn't even do as much damage as what Luffy did in Dressrosa because he's old. Like, even Garp is like, oh, this is trash. I couldn't even do as much as I used to be able to do, which we already knew that because Garp said at the end of Water 7 that he could only throw the cannonballs as half as fast as he used to be able to. So, Garp doesn't have that in him anymore just because of old age. I will mention this about chapter 1081. The color spread on the spine of the book Sanji is looking at, it says Cock King, COC King. Many people believe that this is a foreshadow of Sanji also having Conqueror's infusion as well. I would actually like it if he does eventually get it. That being said, I think the reason why Luffy and Zoro have it is for narrative purposes, that they need it to compete with these other Yonkos and other swordsmen. That's what's going to put them on that level, if not above, because I don't know if Mihawk has Conqueror's hockey. He might, or Oda might just put it to where there's an advanced version of even armament hockey as well, even more advanced than Emission and Eternal destruction and the invisible armor. So maybe Mihawk just has crazy observation hockey and armament, but I wouldn't put it past Mihawk to also be a conqueror too. And so, but yeah, that spine of the book does say Cop King, COC King. So, um, and it's the color spread I'm talking about because it's all the rest of the guys of the Straw Hats are asleep. While Sanji is the only one awake reading this book. And basically, yeah, this shows the impact of the galaxy impact, and it's really, really, really small. As I said, is to me, in my opinion, is smaller than what Luffy did on Just Rosa. Uh, and this is where we get Aokiji versus Garp. We get to see them. We get to see Garp use Blue Hole in this chapter, which he throws Aokiji seemingly through the ground. But then we go away from there. We get to see how Aokiji came to be a part of the Blackbeard Pirates, how they met him in that tavern after he froze Sanwan Wolf and all of them for coming there and starting it with him. We got to see the charisma of Blackbeard welcoming Kuzan among the crew, telling him that hey, they're a crew, but they each have their own agendas that they're after as well. So we know Kuzan used the ice ball, the same moves he used against Whitebeard, and Whitebeard used the tremor fruit to get out of it. Garp just uses his conqueror's hockey or armament. It's probably a combination of both. And then he uses shave to grab Kuzan by the face and throw him down in the move called Blue Hole, which seemingly uses Conqueror's Infusion to throw people through the earth. This is also the chapter where we get to see the Heart Pirates, aka Law's group, defeated. The submarine, the Polar Tang, have been sunk after seemingly maybe Blackbeard uses Quake fruit, and because it seems like it got cut down the middle, and no, they don't have Shiryu of the Rain there, so I know it wasn't him who cut it. So more than likely, maybe it was a Quake fruit that did it, or maybe they had a bomb that cut right through it. But that being said, we get to see Jean Bart and them in the water. Blackbeard was contemplating taking the fruit or making Law use the Eternal Surgery, something that comes up as well later on in these chapters. We get to see that Beppo was given drugs by Chopper, which we believe to be the Rumble Ball. Is what Beppo took, and it seemingly allows you to use your Sulong form in broad daylight without the moon. Beppo turns into this gigantic polar bear, slaps the Blackbeard Pirates away, grabs Law, jumps in the water, and goes. So, and he tells Law because Law wants him to go back, but Beppo's like, "Hey, we have to trust these guys. These are the same guys we grew up with in the North Blue. You have to put faith in them that they can get themselves out just as we did, pretty much." So they escape at the end of chapter 1081. We go to 1082. It says, "Let's go and take it." This is the chapter with the Cross Guild, with Buggy throwing his hat in the ring for wanting to become the Pirate King as well, remembering his dream. But then we also see that Cross Guild, because of the bounties that they put out, T-Bone was supposedly killed, or maybe he faked his death because that village he was at, they were poor. So the man who's said to have killed him is this frail old man. The money had been delivered to that town now, so now they'll be able to actually buy stuff there for everybody with that money. But that man has now joined the Cross Guild. That's the trade. You bring the bounty, but then you have to join the Cross Guild for protection, pretty much, because then the Marines would be after him. But since he's in Cross Guild now, no one's going to go after that because you'll have to deal with Buggy, Mihawk, and Crocodile, which the Marines are already pretty stretched then, as Akainu keeps saying, and as we keep seeing. Plus, with them throwing 100 ships at an Emperor, aka Luffy, on Egghead Island, yeah, there's no way they're going to be able to get any more forces at this point. So we see Buggy is dragged to the meeting room because of the ship is made to look just like him, and Mihawk and Crocodile don't want to go and sell on it, and Buggy doesn't like their plan because Crocodile wants to build a utopia, and Mihawk just kind of wants to chill. But Buggy gives a speech like, "Hey, you know, don't you guys want to go after your actual dream, and not just sit up here?" So now we have to figure out what was Mihawk's original dream growing up, because we know as a kid we saw him with a sword, but he looked beaten up, he looked run down. So what was his actual dream? We know Crocodile wanted to be the king of the pirates, but once he got beat by Whitebeard, he changed it to he just wanted to find Pluton and create a utopia. And so maybe the speech did finally inspire Mihawk to also pursue his own dream as well. What was his dream besides becoming the world's strongest? Or was the world's strongest even his dream? And he just oopsed upon it. We don't really know. We have to wait until Oda gives us that answer. But I am suspecting here we will get to see a show of strength pretty soon from Mihawk. And we'll get to see how strong he actually is. We just got Shanks's feat against Kid. That Big Mom couldn't even one-shot Kid. And so we just saw Shanks one-shot him. And so now I was like, okay, what power level is Mihawk at? Because the manga has already stated he has stronger sword skill than Shanks. So Shanks did Divine Departure. Okay, cool. With Mihawk having better sword skill, that means Mihawk is a stronger swordsman at using swordsmanship. So I expect the attack we get to see from him, the first named attack we get to see from Mihawk, is going to be crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if Oda lets this guy split a whole island with his technique, or he destroys 100 ships at once with just a mere swing of his blade, like to definitively put him on that tier of Yonko, if not a little bit stronger than Yonko as well. But yeah, that right there is pretty much the biggest part of that chapter. Then we get to see the commanders of the Revolutionary Army, and this is when Sabo finally comes home, and he gets ready to sit down with Dragon and Vegapunk to tell them what really happened at Mary Joie. And then it says 1083, the truth of that day. Many people loved the fan requested page on this one because it was Doflamingo taking care of a baby bird. He was about to put a band-aid on it. So this is where this is when Sabo is recalling what actually happened in Marijua that day, and telling Vegapunk and Dragon. That's when we learn of the Holy Knights, that there's 9 of them, or there might be more, but we only get to see 9 silhouettes at this point. The whole community is going crazy because the guy in the middle had a rapier just like Shanks with Griffin, which rapiers were used for fencing. They had that unique, not a rapier, a cutlass, because a cutlass has that unique guard that goes right by the hand. But people did note is not exactly 1-to-1 on the cutlass, because Shanks's cutlass goes through the hilt, while this cutlass stopped at the hilt. They didn't push through it. So we got to hear about them. We got to see, it was a picture taken that frames Sabo for killing Cobra. And then we get that flashback. We got to see Morley go against Green Bull, and we got to see Karasu fight. And I'm laughing. We got to see Karasu fight Fujitora, because this is when I was trolling in Brago's Discord hard about how the whole Sabo and a few good men, how Sabo and Morley were fending off admirals while Sabo wasn't even there. Sabo was in the audience room. He was in the throne room with Gorosei, while Karasu and Morley are packing up Fujitora and Green Bull. But obviously trolling. Oda did disrespect the admirals like that, but he's also not putting shade on the captains of the Revolutionary Army as well. We get to see Karasu has the suit fruit. That's why he can create all these crows, these seemingly sentient crows away from his body that can communicate and talk away from him. I guess it's a Gaara-like effect from Naruto, because remember when Gaara could take his eyeball and put it somewhere else with the sand, and that's how he was spying on Sasuke and Kakashi's training. And so yeah, Karasu seemingly can do something of that sort. We see him use, his moves, his named attacks. uh, and then we get to see him clash with Fujitora. We get to see Morley clash against Greenwool, respectively. Uh, and then we go to the audience room, Sabo, but then we also see Jewelry Bonnie is running around trying to find her dad. And then Cobra tells Shaka and Pell to stay out as he has an audience with the Gorosei. And then my chapter 1084, it's titled "The Attempted Murder of a Celestial Dragon." The color spread was a girl's version of 1081, I believe, of the guys, or 1082 of the guys sleeping. It's the girls going down a waterfall or a water slide in swimsuits. Obviously, Ulti looks the baddest here, but that's neither here nor there. We continue on that flashback. We see Sabo and Jewelry Bonnie meet and converse. We get to see Karasu talk to Sabo as well. And then we go to the throne room, the audience chamber, where we see Cobra talking to the Gorosei, and he recalls Queen Lily and her letter, you know, to these guys. We get to see Emu's listening to the call because we get to see him in the flower room or the garden room, and then we go to Princess Shishirahoshi, who's been captured again by Saint Charlos, Donsai, and the, the little people from Greenbit. I don't know why I forget this guy's name all the time. But we also get to see Shirahoshi's sisters. Brothers as well. Yes, they are the Tontata. That's what they are called from Greenbit. Leo is his name. Yeah, we get to see Leo inside take out Charlos and hammer him down to the ground with Dragon Nail and Tail Hammer. So that's why the chapter is entitled "The Attempted Murder of a Celestial Dragon." We get to see Morley grab Kuma, take him underground. Then we heard that. Well, no, that's the next chapter. And then basically it goes back to the throne room, and that's where we see Cobra gets to see Emu sit on the throne, and he mentions the name Lily, or he or she mentions the name Lily. By chapter 1085, it's called "The Death of Nefertari Cobra." So this is where we get to see Cobra get ended by the Gorosei and Emu. Obviously, the chapter starts off with the last one ended, where with Cobra seeing Emu sit down on the quote unquote empty throne. He talks about Queen Lily's blunder that day, and that's how the poneglyphs got scattered. Theories have come out that Queen Lily was the one who originally had the pawpaw fruit, and she's the one who sent and scattered each of the poneglyphs around key areas. And that would kind of explain if somebody with that ability did, because that's why we get the one uh, that was in Jaya, but that ended up in Skypiea because it got knocked up by the knockup stream, the golden one. We get to see different polyglyphs end up in random places. That would make sense if Queen Lily was the one who got the pawpaw fruit and did that. But getting back to the actual chapter, the girl say then pull out the guns upon Cobra and say, since you saw Emu, your like fate was sealed. That like you were gonna die. So it is what it is. And then we get to see Emu attack Cobra with seemingly this black tail. Now, people have speculated that Emu could have the demon fruit devil, or he's just a shapeshifter, maybe with a shape fruit. He could turn himself into whatever, he or she can turn themselves into whatever they want to, because again, supposedly devil fruits are made from the dreams or the desires from people's thoughts, and that's how these devil fruits come into the air. That is into the realm. That is what Dr. Vegapunk hypothesized. And so we get to see Sabo jump into action, use his fire fist, does it at the Gorosei, and then he does rook check, which is a chess move. Smothered mate is what it's called in the scanlations, and it means when you use, I think, a knight to checkmate a king. So that's when we get to see Emu transform into this giant creature, which swallows that move, rook check, or I guess you would actually use a rook to capture the king, because it's called Rook check in the English translation. Then Emu asks, "Where did you, where did thou come from?" Emu has this old way of speaking, which would go to Vegapunk's theory in chapter 186 that Emu is one of the original 20 kings. Uh, but he does, or he or she does, seem to have long hair, because you can look at page 7, and where he says, where he or she says, "Where did thou come from?" It seems like the same long type of hair, like maybe a Vivi or a Queen Lily. I think it could be Lily. Maybe was personality swapped with the Opie Opie no Mi, because remember that's what Don Quixote Doflamingo wanted to do. He mentioned that with Lost Fruit he could control the national treasure of Mary Joie. I believe Emu is the national treasure of Mary Joie, and he was talking about switching personalities with Emu, putting his mind in Emu's body, so that way he could control the whole world. Because I believe Doflamingo knows that Emu actually sits on the quote unquote empty throne. And so then we get to see Emu as this gigantic blob shadow, or he could just be a dragon. His devil fruit could just be a specific dragon with a unique tail. Then we get to see the shadows, the silhouettes of the Gorosei. One looks like a giant rhino or a bison. One looks like a boar or maybe a minotaur. We get to see one that looks like the animal on the crest of the Kozuki clan. The other one just looks like a blob, and the Gandhi Gorosei has that same. I think all of them have that same cloud cloak around them, so they could all be awakened devil fruit users of the Zoan type that is yet to be seen, or their mythical zones, because mythical zones seem to have that cloud around them too. Except for I don't think Kaido had it, but I'll have to go back and look. But yeah, we get to see the silhouettes. We get to see Sabo running with Cobra, and then Sabo gets pierced by that devil tail, and it does a lot of damage because his eyes go white. And people are like, "Oh, Sabo is getting negative," but it's like he's carrying Cobra. He can't turn into flames. So, and there's no black lightning signifying that it was armament hockey or even King's hockey that like hit him. So it seemed like it was just a regular attack, and it pierces Sabo. And then a part of the dialogue is cut off by the growl of of the of the Gorosei or Emu coming down there, seemingly because we were seeing this from Sabo's perspective, so Sabo didn't get to clearly hear what Cobra said, but it seems like it says must be protected or collected. So, but he was talking about Nefertari Queen Lily or Nefertari D Lily. So that means that Cobra is a D and Vivi is a D as well. So we get to see that. We get to see the quote unquote death of Cobra. Then peeking in the wall, it was Wapple. And so he's now on the run with Vivi, which we already knew that she had escaped with uh, on the same blimp as Big News Morgan's, because we saw that in chapters past that she was with them. And Big News commented that she had just stopped crying the other day, or that day, earlier that day. So this review is longer than 20 to 25 minutes. And so we get to see her at the end of the chapter being tied up, and then she jumps in the mouth of Wapple, no pause, as he's trying to escape, as he's running through, trying to get away from what he just saw, because he doesn't want to be erased. And they're told that Wapple and Queen and King Nefertari and Cobra wouldn't be joining or returning to the rest of the reverie. And that's the end of chapter 185, and now we go to, excuse me for the yawn, now we go to the beginning of chapter 186. We get to see it's the color spread of them, of a rainbow above them in the sky. That's what they're all looking at, is a rainbow in the sky. Chopper and this other cat animal are jumping in the puddle of water. Luffy's about to jump down in it, and Sanji's pointing at Luffy or telling them to look up. So apparently, we get Nami, but we don't get Zoro and Jinbei in this color spread. So Maybe Oda has a specific one for them in at the beginning of 1087, but we shall see. This chapter is called the Five Elders. This is the chapter where we get the name for each of the elders. They are referred to as godheads in this chapter. So this was huge news. We get to see Wapple and them escaping on the ship from the Aegis, and we know that they eventually get to on Morgan's ship eventually, called the Wee News, I guess is what it's called. that's what the like that's what the balloons have across them. Uh, we see that Jewelry Bonnie escapes on the ship to the Tajin Kingdom, and Sabo is on the ship to the Lucia Kingdom. That's why he ended up there in the Lucia. We go further on, and then we hear that Emu wants to use the Mother Flame or the Mother Frame. This says Mother Frame, but they do also say that it could be translated as Mother Flame. But they just went with this one because it sounded closer, or I guess it made more sense to them. I think it's Mother Flame. Speaking of the ancient energy source that Vegapunk wants to make, it seems to be that there's an eternal flame in the One Piece world. So that's why I think it should be called Mother Flame. But that's neither here nor there. We get each godhead of what these guys are. Five elders, godhead of science and defense, J. Garcia Saturn. Five elders, godhead of environment, Saint Marcus Mars. Five elders, godhead of justice, Saint Topman Workery. Five elders, godhead of finance, Saint Ethan Baron V. Nesjuro. And then we get five elders, godhead of agriculture, Saint Shepherd Jupiter. So obviously this is a play on the planet names. Venus, Juro, Venus, Jupiter, Workery, Mercury. Obviously Marcus Mars is just Mars, and then Saint Gars and Saint J. Garcia Saturn is just named after Saturn, the first five bodies, celestial bodies that were discovered by mankind in outer space. We finally get to see the Doflamingo Seraphim, the Gecko Moria Seraphim, and the Crocodile Seraphim. Now, I know people say the crocodile one looks like a girl. I just think it's Oda playing with people. I do not believe Crocodile was once a female and it's Luffy's mom. It just makes no sense. It's like, how would it Crocodile really remember what his or her son looks like? I put no stock into the whole Crocodile used to be a woman thing. So, well, even though Ivankov is the one who knows Crocodile's secret and refers to him as Croco Boy, we shall see. But just like Sanji wasn't turned into a woman when he put on the dress in Kamabaka Kingdom, I don't think Crocodile was a woman who became a man. I think he might have had to wear a dress, and that's what he's ashamed of. And that's what he doesn't want to talk about. But I don't think that he was actually transitioned at all. Then we go to the end of the chapter where it's Ivankov being the greatest One Piece theorist of all time, theorizing that Emu is actually from the Void Century, saying that maybe Emu had the Eternal Youth surgery put on him or her, because Emu does look like a kid. Like, honestly, looks like a kid sitting in that throne. Him or her is not very tall at all. So we could be seeing a Sugar type of thing, because we know Sugar couldn't age because she ate the hobby fruit, I believe is what it's called. No, that was Baby Five had the hobby fruit, I think, because they could turn into whatever type of thing that they wanted to. Let me see what it is in the actual wiki. Hobby fruit. I might be wrong. Oh yeah. It is sugar fruit. So I was right. Hobby Hobi fruit. Yeah, so that's the fruit that prevents sugar from aging up, which could also be a eternal youth as well. So maybe Emu had that one first, and then they switched it and got a different fruit, and maybe that's why Emu was alive, or maybe that's why the girls say wanted Jewelry Bonnie, so that way they could extract her lineage factor and have Vegapunk create something that could keep Emu's life going on. Or again, maybe as Vankov said, Emu did have the Eternal Youth surgery performed on him or her, and that's why Doflamingo knew what it could do once you've awakened it, and things of that nature. But anyway, that's pretty much the end of that shadow of that chapter. Sabo does tell Dragon and Ivankov about the giant shadow above the Lucia Kingdom. Ivankov thinks that it's a weapon that Vegapunk created, and Dragon is like, Vegapunk would never create something like that. So I think Vegapunk created the energy source that runs this weapon. And that's why they call it the Mother Flame or the Mother Frame, or it is the actual weapon, uh, Uranus or Uranus, and Vegapunk simply created the energy source for it to be used. Because it did take, what was it? During the Reverie, it was 8 days later that the Lucia Kingdom was destroyed. So seemingly it took those 8 days to power up the device and move it over to Lucia before it got erased from history. Because they told the Marines that thing was never there, that Lucia was never there. So, but anyway, that's pretty much the end of it. Oh no, by the end of the chapter, we get the biggest reveal, I think, of the chapter. We get to see Saint Figureland Garling. He is the supreme commander and leader of the Holy Knights. They have crucified Saint Mioscar Don Quixote. So I don't know if this guy is strong. We do find out that the nobles can only eat cake because that's the only food that they have there, with Dragon and them straining these supply lines, and the Marines being occupied with taking on the 7 warlords, and now going after Luffy and them. The Celestial Dragons can't really drink or eat right now anything except for a cake. So that'll be it for this overview of chapters 1079 through chapters 1086. Like or comment, dislike, whatever type of interaction you do supports this channel and keeps us growing. I will become more consistent, I promise, this time. Whenever I get downtime, I'll make sure that I do a audio like this and then just put background footage to it as we're going through. But that'll be it for me. You guys have a great day. See you later.